Hey everybody, welcome to episode 8. I don't know how long I'm gonna keep saying episode whatever for this series. Anyways, I'll figure it out eventually. So this is yeah, still from the same early bird tournament. I have 6 more games to go from the first early bird tournament at the Canadian Scrabble Classic in Kingston, Ontario, and so let's just get on with it. I'm playing Mark Pistolese, or Pistolese. Anyways, I love Mark. He's really strong player, great guy, and I'm pretty confident when I face up against him because before COVID, I think I was um, 10-3 against him or something like that. And then we played 3 games in a Lake George tournament last year in 2021. And we went 1-1-1. So I won the first game, and then we tied the second game, and he won the third game. Can't get any closer than that. And yeah, this was the next time I was facing him in the first early bird. You do know, if you watch the episodes in order, that I did lose to him in the second early bird, but I wasn't aware that this was going to happen in this game. And yeah, so I was relatively confident about my chances here, as I am in most games against most people. And yeah, this is a really interesting opening position where I wanted to open with A. I've done that before. It's not valid. It's a word, but it's not an acceptable play. So let's see if it actually is the best play. Um, yeah, let's put a Noah in there. And let's put what I did, which was exchanging the A. It's possible that exchanging the A and the O was better. It increases my chances of drawing a tile that scores something. Um, but I think decreases my bingo chances. And yeah, this is an opening rack that could have spent a lot more time on, but I was pretty confident that I wasn't missing anything with this rack. As confident as I get, which is not very confident. Oh, and I forgot to show people the score sheet. So you can see my score sheet. If you don't want to see what happened in the game yet, feel free to avert your vision. But this is what it looks like. There you go. Okay. As you see, I alphagrammed a lot of words before coming to the conclusion that I couldn't find a bingo. And okay, Quackle's liking creating all this junk for 8 points because my bingos are going to score more after this play, and I'm putting 8 points on the board and not taking that much of a hit. Um, but I don't actually know. I would wait a decent amount longer before the iterations uh get to around like 3000. That's when they start making a little bit of sense. But I do sort of trust Quackle in these opening plays, although in the last episode, Quackle got the end game wrong, I think every single turn that I ran it. Um, so I know Quackle's strengths and weaknesses, and looks like playing A would have been slightly better potentially than exchanging the A. But yeah, okay, exchanging AO potentially better for the reasons I mentioned. Um, our next turn, we take a small hit on bingo chances, 93 to 95%, but our bingos score more given that we are likelier to draw a tile that scores something. So that's an interesting concept you might not be familiar with. Um, that occurs, I guess, pretty much only in the opening stages of the game, where you might want to take a small hit on bingo chances when you have a blank, just so that your bingos might score more. And playing through with the Noah, okay. Things are evening out. I guess, yeah, all these plays are pretty close. Questionable. Oops, that's not how you spell. Um, actually, yeah. Let me write this. More likely to contain a high scoring tile. Okay. So exchange one was my play. Which is funny because this might have been informed by my previous game if you're watching all of these videos, which if you are, I salute you. Thank you very much. But last game I also exchanged one to start the game off, and my rack was a lot worse than it was here. And here is a situation where I could actually just pass my turn. And this is not something that happens all that often. But now that I've drawn my bingo, but Mark is a lot closer to a bingo probably than he was in the opening because he exchanged three. That's a pretty small exchange, meaning that his rack is probably pretty balanced at this point. Putting a bunch of letters on the board for Mark to play through, and one of those letters at the very least has to be on a double letter line. Um, and actually two. Yeah, I'm gonna have to open two doubles, and I'm gonna have to open potentially a triple as well to play through. So this is a concept where, hey, I have a really nice blank bingo rack, but I'm not gonna be scoring so much, and Mark might just take a small lead after all is said and done. So passing here is a very interesting concept because I know that there's no way Mark could have a rack that scores fewer points than my rack. He could have the same thing, 6 1 point tiles in a blank, in which case, if we pass the game 6 times in a row, then the game ends, and it ends in a -6 to -6 tie. But I could take my chances here and just say, no, I'm going to have you play first, because I'm likely to get a bingo through your play, whether it's a bingo or a play, that's going to be scoring more than this bingo. But the problem with that is tempo. Even if I take the lead after Mark's play, if he bingos first, it's going to be his turn before it's my turn. So that doesn't necessarily mean I'll be in the lead. But it's a very interesting concept that I might have been able to apply here. I decided to play Auto Men because that seems to be the right idea. It doesn't take an S. Playing a word that doesn't take an S on the opening move is very nice, especially if it's a bingo. And other than that, I need to remember where I played it. That's the other thing is placement. Um, is this where I played it? It's possible. Um, maybe it was one spot up. I need to actually remember. Oh yeah, I actually played it a lot further up. Yeah, I played it here. Um, wasn't super thrilled with. I guess all the placements have a value of auto men. But yeah, in this position, I guess just playing something relatively quickly is probably correct because there's so much to iterate through, and we've seen these positions so many times at in expert dumb. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe putting the T in the double double isn't so great. Maybe putting the E in the triple lane isn't so great. So I could be convinced that this is the wrong placement. Mark plays red for 4, however. And I take this opportunity to play a very defensive move. I can play Peeve for 23. I could play Veep, play Fauvier. I saw that as well. Um, but I decided to play. I also saw Fevered, which is a fun idea. I decided to sacrifice 6 whole points here Mainly because Mark has a bingo range, so he's keeping 5 good tiles on his rack that are likely to bingo, or likely to spell a bingo on the next move. But if I'm able to play Peeve, it really blocks like all of the floating letters on the board, which we call floaters, or at least interferes with them very well. You can still end in these letters, and also makes it really hard to play a 7 letter word. You would need a B for bread, or you would need a D or an S to hook this way on red red A. So I felt this was a good sacrifice to make in the position, to make it just very hard for Mark to bingo. He can also bingo from the D or from the R, but that would be very beneficial to me, and I would probably make up the 6 points that I'm sacrificing if he does one of those bingos, because it gives me a huge triple word score. So I made this adjustment, and it did not work out. Mark played Brisant, and when he played this, I had to think about whether this takes an S hook or not. And I determined that it did not, but I wasn't 100% sure, which is not good. It's not good to be not sure of a very valuable hook on the board, if it is a word. But anyway, I play Feihua. It's probably the play. Guess Homie is interesting, but I think this is the play. Mark played Flu. I played Homily through the eye. I'm just trying to score well, but Phylum is way to score even better and keep even better than Homily, so that's probably better despite opening a triple. I was looking for something like that. I saw Plumby, which I determined was not a valid word. But yeah, I think potentially Phylum is the play. Homily doesn't open a triple, but it does open the top of the board for bingos, which is just not super ideal. If I don't play here, there's not going to be a lot of action on this top left quadrant ever. So I think Phylum, despite the lack of immediate defense, is better. So that's what I did. Yeah, finding, let's call this a finding small. Homily comes down. The only reason I would play Homily over Phylum is potentially to go for a high spread differential. But at this stage in the tournament, I had won my first 2 games by a decent margin, so that was less of a concern of mine, to try and win by a lot rather than a little, to maximize my chances of placing in the tournament. So ERR is the play from Mark. And I go ahead and play Lubric. I could also play Club. Oh, that's quite good actually. It does keep an extra I, so you'll see the valuation is similar because of the extra I being so bad that it almost negates all 9 of the points. But the point of Club is not, it is to control what I've just opened. I've opened the top left quadrant, but if I play Club, there's almost no access to it anymore. So I think Club is probably preferred. He's played ERR, that's a very fishy play, and most of his bingos that I don't want him to play are going to be on the D column. If he bingos from an S, N, T, D, R through the R, I think that's less of a concern for me than if he bingos on the D column. However, Lubric does provide um, a potential ability to control the right side of the board. However, plays through the L will fork the board, and make 2 spots that are not blockable immediately, in one play. So yeah, the short term is pretty good for the defense of both of these plays, but I think Club just edges it out by performing better long term, where it's very hard to reopen. If you play through this C, it's giving me a huge triple, and it's really hard to make a decent play through this C to fork. Um, so I think B7 club might be slightly better. Played Lubric, and quickly comes down and Diurn for Mark. That's a word you'll see very often the more you play. Very useful word. And I play Quoit through the U of Lubric. I have to get rid of my Q. It's really all I can do. I don't think I should be playing Quip here. That's the, like, all these plays give back the triple, except Quip and QI. I guess QI here. But I don't think it's worth sacrificing the equity, word that I've been using a lot in these series. The points plus leave of my play now that the game is actually pretty much tied. I think I just have to go for it. I'm not really happy with this positioning, but my leave is decent. It's decent enough. So I play Quoit. Mark plays Dotage. And I continue to struggle a bit. And this turn I took forever. I could not find a play. And indeed, I make the highest equity play, but it's pretty ugly. It's kind of hard to find that play. Laoan is actually decent as well. Yeah, there's so many plays here to think about, to choose from, and you're basically looking for a play here that either accomplishes something, like sets up a letter of yours, or like guarantees a very high chance of a bingo next turn while not giving too much back to the opponent, or you're just trying to just keep scoring as much as you can. And I think at the end of the day, playing Laoan or Anura, those are the two plays that you would want to choose from here. It's not very easy to bingo on this board. Most of the bingos are going to be on the end column, and they're not going to be very good. So yeah, like increasing your chances of a bingo in this position is comes at potentially too big of a price in terms of scoring. But yeah, speaking of scoring, Laoan scores a bit more and might be a bit better. I guess this is an in-between play, keeping a slightly better leave and scoring slightly worse. But I can't say I saw or considered Laoan, which is even tougher find, I think. Yeah, then Tai comes down, which is a really great play for Mark. Gives nothing back, scores tremendously. And yeah, I draw MUGG, and I think I just have to play them off in this position. So I play Mug and just hope he can't hit me too hard. This isn't a very dangerous triple. The score is still close, but I'm definitely at a disadvantage now. Mark plays Age for 12. And I have a bingo that doesn't seem to fit. Plated Taliped. So yeah, I can play PSI if I wanted to. That's actually probably a decent play. Did I consider that play? I'm not really sure if I consider that play. Again, this is a position where getting a bingo down is going to be really hard. I need an S for breads, pretty much. Or I need to play from the S. And as you can see, despite working through my racks, I'm apparently much less likely to win the game as I was a few turns ago. I was advantaged and now I'm not. Peeved is actually a decent play here. I decided to play plate, just keep on the scoring pressure. Yeah. Questionable. The reason I'm writing these comments here is because I'm also posting these games onto cross tables. That's going to be, I think, the first link you find in the video. description that's going to show the tournament that I'm referring to in these games. And yeah, there's a bunch of people that like to watch those games on cross tables at their own leisure, so that's why I try to write a few comments here and there. I used to write a lot more. So Finis comes down from Mark, which is a nice play. Sort of covers all the bingo spots on the board, takes the lead again. Gets rid of 2 I's and an F. And now there's 6 tiles in the bag, and I have this rack. And I play stoved, but I'm not really sure if it's right. This is a very complicated position where the X and the Z are going to be huge. You see there's a Z spot here, an X spot here. And if I play stoved, I'm actually creating an even better spot for either of those tiles. I guess not the Z, actually. I don't think there's an actual word that goes there with the Z, but for the X for sure. I guess like oozed is the play. That's probably better than a lot of plays that make Za. But yeah, this creates a threat of just losing immediately to a huge play. But I didn't really see anything better. I could play Dove. That might actually turn out better for me. And I could play. Ooh, I could play Rove. Oh, Rove looks very good here. Um, I have the last T for Trove, so the spot is kind of mine. Of course, if he does have one of those bomb plays that that sort of gets in the way of the Trove hook. But this is a way of keeping pretty well and scoring, and I think it's better in this position for me to leave 2 tiles in the bag rather than the 1 tile I left with stoved. Just because if I leave 1 tile in the bag, players are able to iterate through every single possible draw that they could have with the 8 tiles that they have written down and tracked that remain unseen to them after my play. So as a result of that, it makes sorting through like the best plays a bit easier, but also it's also easier to go out on the next move by making a 4, 5, or 6 tile play that leaves you with potential options no matter what you draw. So I think that I messed up pretty badly here by not playing Rove. I'm not really sure what the engine's going to think. I'm not super trustworthy of the engine in this sort of position, but I think Rove is just so easy. It's so easy to see the value in it, given that it sets up a case tile of mine. Except, wait, it's also setting up a D, come to think of it. So actually, that's not very good. Never mind. I just realized that now, even though Drove was one of the plays being considered. So forget what I said there. But I do think it's potentially still better to leave 2 in the bag and maybe play Vest. But Stove seems to do well. Vid, the idea of Vid is that it allows me to bingo a decent amount. I'm not really so keen on that. Anyways, I play Stoved. And yeah, then Mark puts on his thinking cap and eventually makes a really awesome play of Schwa for 32. And when I saw this play come down, I was like, "Oh shit, like that's the play. That is the win. That is an awesome play because basically from my perspective on Mark's time, this was what was unseen to me. And I saw that if he played something like Wax, I was going to be able to win the game because he wasn't going to go out on the next move, as far as I saw. And that basically means it's the difference between winning and losing in these close games. Whoever goes out first tends to win these games an alarming amount of the time. So because I saw that Schwaxed were the unseen letters, I then saw that he was setting up Axed for 36 and Dex for 36 with this play. I don't know what his other 2 tiles were, but I imagined it was either ED or EX. And yeah, phenomenal play by Mark, which wins him the game. And it just goes to show why leaving one in the bag was really not ideal there. I saw that I could maybe get a little bit more spread if he didn't challenge Brisance and I played like Caesar in this position, but I decided it wasn't even winning the game anyway, so I just played Zerk and took the loss. And well done to Mark, winning the game by 18. So yeah, I don't know. This game it feels like the game slipped away from me. I can't really quite point to a huge mistake I made, but definitely I think a few inaccuracies in a row, like Homely and Lubric. Peeve is obviously questionable. My opening exchange was questionable. I think Homely was wrong. I think Lubric was wrong. Anura might have been wrong, and Plate might have been wrong, and Stove might have been wrong. So I wasn't very confident in the, I guess, optimality of most of my moves this game, but still, yeah, still played, I think, a decent game. However, yeah, Mark got the better of me and made a really, really key play of Schwa. Like that's a very, very top level idea. To not only see this crazy word that barely ever comes up, but to see that it almost guarantees a win with pretty much every draw. Um, so yeah, congrats to Mark. I'm gonna save the game and post it onto cross tables. And as always, thanks for watching. And this was my first loss. I was now 2-1 in the early bird tournament, and there are 5 more games to play. So look forward to seeing you in the next game.